Joining me now is News Corp's senior writer Patrick Carlyon. Patrick, let's start with federal Labor. The MPs in Victoria are not happy. They've had a serious wake-up call following the 17% swing against the state Labor government in Werribee, a traditional Labor heartland seat. That's caused them to demand that Premier Jacinta Allen stop blackmailing the federal government into providing extra funding for the suburban rail loop project. They say that the Allen government should instead focus on other projects that voters actually want. It's a novel idea, Patrick. The Victorian by-election on the weekend, well, there were two. There was one in Prahran, one in Werribee. It certainly sent shockwaves through the federal ranks, Labor and the Greens.
Look, I don't think those results were surprising at all. I mean, the Allen government's been on the nose for a long time. We've got to wait until 2026. I think there's a lot of people metaphorically twirling their baseball bats just waiting for November 2026 to try and change the government here at a state level. And Victoria at a federal level is a battleground state for the first time probably since about, going back to Bob Hawke, a long time ago. There's 6 or 7 seats that are really going to matter. The suburban rail loop is very unpopular with Victorians. It's deepening our debt. Nobody really understands why we're getting it. And federal Labor, understandably, they want to push projects that people actually want and need, such as the airport rail link.
Well, they don't want to keep paying for something that is just seems to be a bottomless pit. What is the point of this suburban rail loop project? Because, like you said, it's not particularly popular, yet the Dan Andrews government and now the Jacinta Allen government are inflexible about it. They have taken some shots and refused to abandon it.
Look, I shouldn't say half, but many members of the cabinet, the state cabinet, the deputy premier don't seem very keen on the suburban rail loop. It's going to push the debt much further. We are the most bankrupt state in the country by a mile. We are holding back the rest of the country at the moment. It doesn't make sense, and it's a bit like the Commonwealth Games, where we sort of spent more than $500 million on something that didn't happen. It seemed like a good idea when it was announced, but we don't finish things in Victoria.
See, this is the thing with the suburban rail loop. I'm not sure it was even a good idea when it was announced. It's never seemed to have had a solid business case. It's always seemed to be something that has been a bit of a mystery. We're wondering why are we doing this? Why are we sending the state into further debt? Now let's move on to Federal Sports Minister Annika Wells, who's joined Senator Lydia Thorpe in siding with Sam Kerr as she faces court in London. Here's what Annika Wells had to say yesterday.
I think it has been a rocky road for Sam and her partner. The more we find out about that incident, I think the more you can understand why they've acted the way that they have. But being an ex-lawyer myself, I would never seek to interfere or comment on a court trial process whilst it's in action. But I think Sam certainly has Australia behind it.
Patrick, I don't think this is a great look, particularly when you watch the footage of Sam Kerr unleashing.
Oh my God.
They wouldn't do that. You should have spoken to the...
Stupid and white. Honestly, you guys are stupid and white.
Yes, some commentary there that was colourful to say the least. Why do we have politicians? Lydia Thorpe, you can understand. I mean, she's just rogue. But why would Annika Wells take this position?
Look, I find that strange. This has been playing out for more than a week. We keep seeing that footage you just played. Look, it's not a Rosa Parks Montgomery bus moment. This is not going to change the world. Whatever the judgment in this case, it's not going to. The world is not going to think that Sam Kerr is racist on some fundamental level. If she doesn't, if the police win, then I'm sure that police officer will get over what she said that night in a way. And you get this grandstanding, and that's what frustrates me. You get the Lydia Thorpes and you get federal ministers actually talking to this. I think Sam Kerr, for what it's worth, I don't think most people think she's racist, but that attitude did come from a place that a lot of Australians would object to. I don't think she's an unquestioned sporting superstar that she was.
And a lot of people would also object to the fact that a lot of these sporting stars are very quick to play the victim, very quick to push the racial card, and if this was happening with any sporting star and it was a matter of saying, substituting the word black for white, then
Yes.
it would be very different. There would be no more endorsements. There would be no more Australian captaincy. There would probably be no more place on the Australian team.
Yes.
The consequences would be dramatically worse. And I think, again, a lot of Australians can see the hypocrisy there. Now, let's talk about Minister for Housing and Homelessness, Claire O'Neill. She's unleashed more content on Instagram. I don't know whether she wants to become some sort of an Insta influencer. Have a look at this output. I mean, why? Just why? Who's advising them to do this? I'm sure they've probably got some social media experts or somebody who thinks this is a way to communicate to younger voters. But I just can't see that as being convincing to anybody.
No, look, when you get to a certain age, you learn things, and you learn not to sort of post things on social media unless they are genuinely funny. I'm of that age, so I don't post many things on social media. That's sort of faintly trivialising of a very important issue.
Exactly, that's the thing. Also, it's actually cheapening something that your government's supposed to be proud of.
Yeah.
And I just don't know. I cannot understand. I'm sure the rusted-on feminists who would never think of voting anything other than Greens or Labor or perhaps Teals may enjoy that, but it certainly doesn't have broad appeal.
No, I think it's polarising potentially. We've been talking about women's health for decades, as we should have been. We should be proud of what we've done. It's not this sort of breakthrough moment. It's like they were watching a grand final.
Yeah.
Or a quarter or something. It's a breakthrough.
It's a popular meme that's kind of doing the rounds at the moment, and that's what they seem to be doing. They're taking it and trying to apply it to federal politics, and more often than not, it misses the mark. Now, let's talk quickly about the ceasefire between Israel and Hamas. I'm going to be talking to Josh Hammer later in the program, but it is increasingly on shaky ground as Hamas says it is delaying the release of captives held in Gaza, the hostages they've held for more than a year. The Israeli government is raising the alert level of its military and ordering it to be ready for any possible scenario. Donald Trump has also hit out at Hamas.
As far as I'm concerned, if all of the hostages aren't returned by Saturday at 12 o'clock, I think it's an appropriate time. I would say cancel it and all bets are off, and let hell break out. All of them, not in drips and drabs, not 2 and 1 and 3 and 4 and 2. All hell is going to break out. And I don't think they're going to do it. I think a lot of them are dead.
All hell is going to break loose. I think the Israeli government, Benjamin Netanyahu, knows that Trump isn't going to stand in his way if he wants to eliminate Hamas. The Biden administration had a very different attitude. How do you see this progressing? We're in a perilous state right now.
Look, it's been a fragile process, this whole ceasefire, hasn't it? And Donald Trump has come in over the top and sort of said a lot of common sense things, I would argue. I mean, the hostages just got lost in the rhetoric in Australia, in all the pro-Palestine activism for so long. And now we're hearing their stories. They are dreadful stories of being sort of hung upside down in chains, in cages, finding out that their loved ones are dead. These are terrible stories. And this was a deal, it was always going to be a fragile deal, made by a terrorist organisation. So I think the likes of Donald Trump sort of coming in over the top may actually not be a bad thing, in that it actually progresses things, actually pushes things forward.
And he's speaking to them in terms they understand. He's not trying to hug them into submission.
Yes.
He's saying he's going to unleash hell. And I think these terrorists, that they respond to language like that. We'll see what happens next. But he also made the point that the last lot of hostages released, the 3 men who were starved, obviously, he likened it to Holocaust survivors, the scenes there. And I think they were powerful statements as well. Patrick Carlyon, thank you so much for your time tonight.
Thanks, Rita.